computer. Okay. Good morning, everyone. I hope you are doing great. A special thanks to this group of people that everyone was very much punctual. Thank you so much. It means a lot to me. The other thing is the first part of the class would be on a PowerPoint. Mainly, we finish the concept of class, and after that, we are going to have our midterm the way that I promised. So you already have the PowerPoint part, but you don't need to open it. We are gonna just quickly cover the concept. Look at this one. At the end of this session, we are gonna know about the definition, anatomy, the cursory discussion of the types of the members, accessibility, and also the members that we deal with. Technically, we have 9, 10 members in each class, while in this course, we cover 7, 8. Why I say 7? Because some people might say we have events outside the text environment. Yes, we work with that event concept in the GUI, but we don't work with the event in the text-based format. So everybody knows that what is class? It's a piece of code, right? And then a class is a data structure that combines state, field. Can I have everybody's attention, dear clickers? A class is a data structure that combines state, fields, and actions or methods. So we have a tray. That tray contains data. Today, I'm gonna just explain this to you to save some marks. One of the parts of the test is define properties, and many people lost the mark for that part because they used fields. Guys, if you don't know the difference between fields and properties, that's a serious issue. So we need to look at the fields as the tray, and we look at the properties as the gate to get that to tray. So methods and other function members in a single unit, a blueprint to make an object, we know that. It specifies or describes the shape of a type, and it normally mimics a real-world situation problem things. A class is built to imitate everything or capture something relevant about a problem. No matter if you see today, for instance, we need to talk about pizza, I don't know, student, confectionery, car dealers, they are all the same. We have some fields that we define properties for those fields, and we have some actions, right? Okay, so class design, like any software design, is a complex process. Let's forget about this, guys. This is familiar, right? We say class foo, and then we say foo f equal to new, and we call the constructor part, correct? So we have header, we have body. The header consists of keyword class follows by name of the class, and body contains those curly braces open and close, and methods and everything is between them. You see those grayed out are those that we do not intensify in this semester about indexers and operators. Operators, in next sessions, we are going to talk extensively about overwriting operators. For instance, imagine that plus is going to add 2 integers together, right? And create another integer. Or how about 2 doubles or double an integer? We know all about those things. But what about strings? If you say Reza and Dibaj and you say plus, it's going to just add them together. But what if you want to define a plus for adding complex numbers? Means that, you know, any complex number has 2 parts. One is the real part and the other one is the imaginary part. You want to add imaginary parts together and the real parts together. We don't have that. You want to create it yourself. You want to override operator. Does that make sense? Okay, so constants, fields, methods, properties, finalizer. I'm gonna see that in a few minutes. Instance constructors and static constructors, type. Okay, guys, constant, what's it? It's a place in a memory first that you put a value inside it and you lock the door. You are not allowed to change it. Does that make sense? Read the theory later. Everybody, please, this code, you have it in your Telegram. Oh, not Neda. Okay. Neda, you have it specifically in your Telegram as well. Okay. So just try this. And we have a point in here. Done? Okay. Look at line number 1. It is obvious pi is equal to 3.14 and so on. How about number 2, line number 2? Guys, when you get to line number 2, are we aware of pi in that moment? Yes. If we are not aware of that, you're gonna see error. What does it mean? Exactly. Whenever we define constant, the value that you want to put it in the memory should be clear. If not, it is going to give you error. Does that make sense, everyone? Okay. Let's go to the next part. Methods, the actions in the class. If you don't say anything about the members that we have, the default value for them would be private or public. Okay. Don't worry. Don't have a stress. Look at here. It says that public void. The other one says private void. No return for these two. Public static. What is public static if you have it in a class? Tell me. Is it a class level or an object level, instance level method? It's a class level, means that you have the class name dot, and you are going to have what? Access to that method. Does that make sense? If you have static keywords, you can easily access by mentioning the name of a class. Everything is clear so far? Awesome. And for this one, I didn't mention anything public or private. What do you think it should be? Awesome. Okay, constructor. What is the role of constructor, guys? Pardon me? It has to have the same name as the class. The other thing is, what is the role of it? Initializing the values. If you do not provide any, it's going to provided by compiler. And the one that compiler has is parameterless, means it doesn't have any parameter. Does that make sense? And if you start defining any, you're going to lose the parameter less. The default auto-implemented is not going to be there anymore. You have to define it yourself. You know that, right? So, and it is called immediately after the object is instantiated, right? So we have one example from the slide about constructor, and I broke it down to different levels so we can easily understand what is happening. So before anything else, let me just quickly see declare like a method. What is the difference between method and constructor? Yes, Reza, it doesn't have any return value. Guys, come on. You want to save all the energy for midterm? Awesome. So it's called immediately after the object is instantiated and normally used to initialize the object. That's the whole reason of having it. Like method, it may be overloaded. Not only we can overload it, we can chain it as well. The default constructor is a parameterless constructor. We know that developer normally define a parameterized constructor, and constructors can be chained. A static constructor is called immediately after what? Whenever you deal with a class, you're going to have just one, guys. Just one static constructor, no matter how many times later you're going to create objects after that. Just one static constructor. It says that a static constructor is called immediately before any member is accessed and only once in the lifetime of an application. Okay, we have awesome example to cover everything, guys. You see overloading. Here we have one constructor. What is this constructor? Tell me. Neda, yes, default constructor. And these two parameterized constructors. Do you see this? Huh? This is a chain constructor. Whenever you see keyword this in constructor, it means that, excuse me, we have a chain here. Okay. You see private, static. Do we use private constructor?
Yeah.
Who said no? Yeah. The thing is, we don't normally use, but do you remember minions? Yes, Reza, I saw the cartoons. The example minions that we had, we wanted to have just 10 minions, not more. We used constructor in a private form to check if we have already 10 objects, you're not going to create anymore. You remember that? Okay, so let's just go to this part together. Guys, you might say, Reza, I have already watched that. These are that important that I decided to.
A constructor is a special method found within a class. It has the same name as the class name. In the last video, we created a human class, but it's missing a constructor. If we do not explicitly create a constructor, there is a hidden one behind the scenes that is automatically called, and it is used to create an object for us. So let's explicitly create a constructor. So you type public, because we want this to be publicly accessible, and then it has the same name as the class name. Then add a set of parentheses, then a set of curly braces. This works just like a method, and we can even set up parameters. So let's set up name and age parameters. We need to list the data type, string, name, and int age. Now, in order to create a human object, we have to pass a matching set of arguments. We need to pass in a name and an age. Well, a string can function as a name and an integer can function as an age. So we don't manually need to assign these fields anymore. We can just pass these values as arguments. So with human 1's name was Rick and his age was 65. So I will pass these as arguments, Rick and 65. And you can see that red underline went away. So let's do the same thing for human two, Morty and his age 16. And we no longer need to manually assign those fields. However, within the constructor, we'll need to do so. So type this dot, the name of the field we would like to assign, equals the name of the parameter. And in this case, they have the same name. This dot name equals name. And this dot age equals whatever this is, age. And this.
Okay, what is not great about this code? Sorry? Well, we have public field, right? But the gentleman is very much on top of the concept. He just wants to ease the job, right? But whenever we want to define something like this, we make it private and we use setter getter, we use properties, right?
Whatever this is, age. And this will work the same as before, but we did not need to manually assign those values to those fields. So after calling the eat and sleep method for both human one and human two, this will display Rick is eating, Rick is sleeping, Morty is eating, Morty is sleeping. So that's kind of what a constructor is. It's a special method from within a class, and it's automatically called when we instantiate an object if we do not explicitly create a constructor. But if we do, we can manually assign some values to fields of an object. Let's try a different example this time. Instead of humans, let's create a car class. We will instantiate some car objects. So let's delete our current class and create a new one. Class, car, then curly braces. Cars will have, let's say, 4 fields: a make, a model, a year, and a color. String make, string model, int year, and string color. Then to create a constructor, this will have the same name as the class name. Precede this with public, car, parentheses, curly braces. And again, this is a special kind of method, and we can set up arguments and parameters. So we have string make, string model, int year, and string color. And then when we receive arguments, we can assign them to these fields. This dot make equals make. This dot model year. Then let's create maybe a drive method. Public void drive. And we will display something. You drive the plus make plus a lot of space to separate make.
Another comment that we have, interpolation, not using @, right? $, sorry. By the way, try to use @ if you need today for the exam for the path. Okay, it's not professional to use 2 slashes, backslashes, this kind of things. Try just use one @
Plus model. Okay, now let's instantiate some objects. So we type the name of the class, car, then we need a unique name or identifier for this car. Let's call this first car, car1 equals new car, parentheses, semicolon. But to instantiate a car object, we have to pass a matching set of arguments to these parameters. We have to pass a make, model, year, and color. So car1, let's say, is a Ford Mustang. Ford Mustang. The year will be 2022, and the color is red. And then let's have car1 use the drive method. So type car1 dot drive. Then a set of parentheses to invoke it. You drive the Ford Mustang. Now let's create car2. It's the same process, new car. This will be 2021, and the color is blue. And then let's use the drive method of car2. Car2 dot drive. You drive the Ford Mustang, you drive the Chevy Corvette. So yeah, that's a constructor. It's a special method.
Guys, is it clear so far? Okay, this is 7 marks out of 25 for today. Well, technically, if you just know to define properties plus methods, that's the easy part. right? Okay. Let's go to the
And
next
that's
example that
mainly-
we have. And now we want to see the overloading. You see, I have provided, guys, you're gonna have the file by the end of tonight. But we can't watch all the videos. To the interest of time. But I recommend, please watch everything that I have provided. Some of them are lengthy, like 45 minutes, but please watch them.
All right, overloaded constructors. By using overloaded constructors, this is a technique to create multiple constructors within the same class, much like that video on overloaded methods. So with overloaded constructors, multiple constructors can have the same name, but they need a different set of parameters because a method's name plus its parameters equals a unique method signature. And each method must have their own unique signature. So let's create a class named pizza. And there's going to be 4 fields. Let's have string bread for the type of bread we would like for our pizza. Like, is it flatbread, stuffed crust, plain? A field for sauce, cheese, and topping. Then let's create a constructor. Public pizza. And then we need to set up the parameters. String bread. And string topping, and then we'll need to assign these. This dot bread equals bread, cheese equals cheese, and this dot topping equals topping. All right, then let's construct a pizza object. Pizza,
Another comment that we can have here, guys, what are these guys? I've forgotten, sorry. What are these guys? Fields, okay, they're public, right? When you don't say they're private, but look, a person like me could just get confused. Is it private, public? Don't be stingy in typing. They're not gonna charge you. Write it. Private, string, so.
equals to pizza. Then we need to pass in something for the bread, the sauce, the cheese, and the topping, because we can't construct a pizza object without bread, sauce, cheese, and a topping. We need all 4 in order to construct a pizza object. So let's pass in something for the bread. Let's say I would like a stuffed crust pizza. Stuffed crust. For the sauce, let's say red sauce. And the cheese, what about mozzarella? I don't remember how to spell mozzarella. Mozzarella. I'm taking a guess here. And the topping, pepperoni. So we can construct a pizza object just fine, right? But what if we would like a pizza without any toppings, like a plain cheese pizza? So I'm going to get rid of that topping. Well, we can't construct a pizza without a topping. We need to add something because we only have 1 constructor set up and we need to pass in something for a topping. So one way in which we could solve this problem is to have multiple constructors, overloading constructors. We can pass in a varying amount of arguments. So if we would like a cheese pizza without any toppings, we can use that specific constructor that will construct a plain cheese pizza. So let's copy this constructor. They can have the same name, but they need a different set of parameters. So I'm going to remove this topping parameter, and we will not assign this dot topping equals topping, and we can now create a plain cheese pizza. And let's do the same thing with, I don't know, maybe somebody doesn't want cheese on their pizza. So pizza with only bread and sauce. And then another pizza with only bread. I'm not even really sure if it's considered a pizza then, maybe it's garlic bread or something, but I don't know though. We can now create a pizza object that has no toppings, no cheese, and no sauce. So by using overloaded constructors, we can construct objects with varying amounts of fields. Maybe we would like toppings, maybe we don't. Well, we have a choice now. So yeah, that's overload constructors. It's a technique to create multiple.
Okay, one of them I mentioned even just you can start watching from minute number 3. But this one is what we need to know about not only overloading, but also for chaining, and why we need that. And in all the videos, in all the resources that I checked, they didn't mention an analogy that I'm going to explain to you, and it's going to help you to just implement it easily. Just let's first watch this one.
Great to see you. My name is Yannick, and in this video, we're going to talk about constructor overloading and constructor chaining. Make sure to stick around until the very end of the video to fully understand how you can write more flexible and maintainable code when it comes to constructors. And if you have no clue about constructors, we already have an introduction video on that, so check it out right now if you have really no clue about constructors at all. Now here we have a public class bank account, we have 4 properties, and here we have our constructor. And that constructor has 4 parameters: account number, balance, account holder name, account type, and all of that, and we assign the values. So pretty much very basic and default stuff. Now right here in that class, we have one constructor, but we can create multiple constructors, and that's called constructor overloading. So for example, this constructor here needs 4 parameters, right? So if we want to create a bank account, like here, we have to provide account number, balance, account holder name, and all of that. But we can also create a constructor like public bank account, just like that, without any parameters, just like this. Now we have the basic constructor, which we can use to create a new bank account. So let's say var account 2, for example, equals to new bank account. They'll go just like that without providing any kind of information. Now, this is our valid state, right? We don't want to be able to create an object of type bank account without specifying an account number, account holder, and account type. That doesn't make sense, right? An account or bank account always needs any kind of a number, always needs an account holder, and for sure, maybe any kind of balance. However, account number and account holder are always required, and this is why we should really not allow an empty constructor just like that. So instead, we also don't want to be able to only be able to create a constructor using all 4 properties. No, instead, we also want to have a constructor for string, account number, and let's say account holder name. So those are the properties that we need to fill out at least. There we go. Now we will assign that. So account number equals to the parameter value account number, and account holder name equals to account holder name. Now we will see an error here because there is no constructor which is empty anymore. So we have to provide at least 2 properties, right? Account number and account name, account holder name, or we have to use the constructor with all 4 properties. And you can now see that we have that nice.
One quick question. In here, we have getter, but we don't have setter. So what is the strategy of the developer, you think? So we just want to make objects and assign the values using the constructor, right? Okay.
Overload right here. So let me just pass in an account number. Let's say 1, 2, 3, 4. And let's say for the account holder name, let's again take John or John Doe or whatever, right? Now we're able to pick the first constructor with 2 parameters or the second constructor with 4 parameters, as you can see right here. First one, second one. But this for sure gives us a lot of flexibility. For example, we could also say like, okay, if we don't specify an account type or an account balance, we can say the balance, but the default is set to 0. And the account type, for example, in its default value, we can set it to savings. So just like that. Now our
whenever we see such problem statements, guys, we are developers. You can just see 1, 2, 10 examples. You need to think about other use cases. For instance, you want to write a program. If you're trying to write a program for some places like Costco, all the members should have member ID. For that case, whenever you create a new member, in your application, you need to have full data for account number, right? Membership ID, first name, last name, and so on. But imagine that you're working on an application for Loblaws, then or Food Basics. Then you have some people that they have membership, right? Put them aside. You have some people that they are just non-member customers. You're going to reserve a specific account number like 999, correct? For such cases, you're going to use overloading. And you just say, for instance, membership number is 999, something like that, right? Okay.
The not complain of. Great. So this is one example of constructor overload. If you want to if you love this video, please give it a thumb up and subscribe to our channel because you don't become a better software developer. Alrighty, so there's one more concept I want to talk about, which is called constructor chaining. Basically means that when you call a constructor, you can call another constructor automatically. Let me just remove that bank account and bring another class right here. All right, so here we have a new class, employee, 4 properties, name, age, is manager as Boolean, and related employee object, which is the manager. Now, we have a constructor, which is just taking the parameters and setting the values for them. Now, let's just assume that I want to create an employee who is a manager. So is manager true? But that manager does not have a manager, right? So I am the manager. I have no manager. So in that scenario, I only want to provide Yannick 30, and yes, I am a manager, but I don't have a related manager object. So in that way, what we can do here is to create a new constructor employee. We only have string name, int age, and the Boolean is manager, just like that. Now we can see that I can for sure create that object, but let's say that we also always want to have a value for that manager, whatever value it is, right? And in that way, we can call another constructor by adding a colon. Let me just bring it to the next line of code right after the constructor, but outside of the curly braces right here. And now I can call again this, open up another constructor and put in all the information. So let's say name, age. Now I can write down null. I don't have an employee manager object, and I again can say is manager. So right now we create an object right here with 3 properties. We pass it.
Okay. Look at this one, guys. We have name, age, and is manager. Is it correct? Look at this one in the most complete. I repeat this, most complete constructor that we have. In this, for example, we have name, age, manager, and is manager. So you see them? We say, hey, pass name, age, and null, and is manager, whatever you get respectively to the most complete version of the constructor. I repeat that. This is going to point to the most complete. I repeat that. This is going to point to the most complete version of constructors. If you have 10, it's going to find the most complete version. Okay, just stay tuned. You might say, Reza, I saw in rare cases. Yes, but I'm talking about typically.
The matching signature, name, age, and is manager. And that automatically passes it to the constructor with the 4 properties, and he will initialize the object with all 4 values.
One of the things that I see, and I don't know why, guys, whenever you say this means that get name, get age, pass null, is manager to the parent, to the most complete version. You don't need to say again, okay, now name, bring it to the property name. Bring age, bring this to the property age, and so on. You pass it to the most complete version. It's going to take care of it, right?
Provided 3 properties. In the end, we will have all the information provided in the constructor with the 4 properties. So this is just pretty handy. It's not really about that manager object and all of that. It's just so that you understand that you can pass the information from one constructor to another constructor to provide specific values, like we did it here with the null value, to then set up and initialize the object inside of a different constructor. Maybe the most basic constructor that you always want to call. Great, so that's it for constructor channel.
Okay, so now I give you something. And that is, you see that 23, 20 and 43, but I'm gonna give you this one. Everyone, please spend a few seconds. Himal, you just destroyed it. Okay. Just everybody, please spend a few seconds. Go through this, see what you can learn. Can I have your attention for a few seconds? What is this? What is this thing? We have one constructor that has no parameter. That's the default constructor. This is the most complete version of the constructor, right? So we have age and name. And this one has just age, right? Means that you can define an object without knowing anything about the name. Okay, so we got that. This one uses the default. This one uses the one that has just age. But what about this one? This is not the best way of chaining. It just wanted to mention, but this is the what? A better version of implementing that. And it says, hey, this, what does it mean? And you say, if anybody uses default constructor, right? The age automatically is going to be 10. Does that make sense? Okay. So now you can see overloading mostly is used for the cases that you want to have object partially has the properties, not all the properties, right? But chaining, based on the examples that we saw, we use it mostly for the cases that we want to have a kind of default value for some of those properties, like null for the manager, like default age, default city for the people who want to become a student at Centennial, right? So people mostly are from GTA. I don't think that anybody drives from Ottawa to come here just to probably. It's really worth it, guys, don't get me wrong. But rarely we have that, okay? So let's go to the next parts together. And this one, actually, I have implemented the code. Spend a few minutes on this too. Okay, guys, before God invented ChatGPT, we had the Stack Overflow. And imagine that before that in 2008, how troublesome was coding. It was totally, you should find somebody who knows exactly similar problem. And the chance was almost zero, right? Somebody asked that, okay, what is the chain? Look at this one, please. Here, we have the most complete version of the thingy, the constructor. And then it says that, you know what, if somebody uses default constructor, means that nothing for ID, nothing for name, consider 0 as the ID, and null, nothing, I mean, for the name. Does that make sense? What if a person has just ID, then get that, bring it to the most complete version of the constructor. For the ID, use the ID that you passed, but for the name that we don't have, pass double quote, double quote. Does that make sense? And the same thing applies to the time that you have only name and you don't have ID. I very much like this example. So that is why if you see, yes, if you see, I have forgotten to copy that example. Just copy that example from the file, from the website, and try it yourself. And the beautiful thing is here, you need to complete this part, foo a equal to new foo, all those things. Okay. Those who want to try this, I do not like this type of comma separated everything in one line. This just tease my eyes. You have this version of the code as well, so you can just try this one. I'm gonna just add it to, yeah. And whenever you are done with the code, just spend a few seconds, see what is happening in the code. Creating different objects when you have nothing, when you have some parameters. Okay, today you're gonna see that one of the things that you need to do to get the result would be defining post public override string to string. So here you don't see anything, not a bad idea at your convenience. At your convenience, please write post for it. Spend a few seconds. Whenever you are done, give me a signal. Done. Thank you. Which one was? Okay, so for this one, I'm going to delete this example. We already have the most complete version of it. Yes. Okay. This one, my sample is exactly something that we saw in it. Let me just, oops, my apple. Yeah, Control X. This belonged to this one. And yeah, this is, I think now it looks better. So the other one, you didn't miss anything. I copy the code for you. This is something that we saw in the previous example. Please just try this one. Talk to your neighbors about it. Okay. And talk about what you learned from this toy example to your friend. We have age, we have name, so how we are gonna chain. Yes, sorry, property.
Like a prompt. But like, let's say answer that.
I'm gonna answer these questions later. Sorry. The reason that I'm gonna answer later because I didn't understand it. Gonna answer it. But okay. Let me just quickly go through the rest of the slides. My plan is, guys, the sooner that we can finish, the more time you have for midterm. I designed to have 2 hours, almost 2 hours, 15 minutes for the test, but some people needed way more time. So I want to be as flexible as I can, but just please consider 1:30, there will be another class here. So whatever we are doing, we should finish at the worst case scenario, 1:30. Okay. Let's see. And by the way, we had people that they finished sooner. What is that finalizer? You read it? Then forget it. We had in old era in 2010, when we got new version of .NET Framework, we didn't need to have garbage collection like this. Whenever you say goodbye to any object, you don't need to say, okay, did you put it in the recycle bin? Hey, I know my job. You don't need to tell me, right? That kind of thing happened after that in .NET. You don't need to take care of it. And I don't know why we have it, but one reason could be because of this video that you're gonna watch it in no time. Before that, let's just have only one overloading because I feel it's gonna help us for our test.
Another kind of overloading, that is operator overloading. As in the operator overloading,
My apologies. This is the other video that I wanted to tell you. That's the problem I have. Yeah. Watch this, sorry.
Talk about destructors, and if you're asked about them, why you might not want to take that job. Now, something you learn here today to get you a job. So initiate a mouse click event over the like button, and if you enjoy this channel, subscribe. So what is a destructor? Well, a destructor is a special method that cleans up when an object is being destroyed. Kind of like the opposite of a constructor, which sets things up. Let's look at how we do a constructor first. Now, everyone knows what a constructor is. It's a method responsible for taking new objects and getting them ready for use. It's automatically invoked upon initialization and has the same name as the class name. And if you don't put one in your class, it's cool. The C# compiler will just create one for you. But what is this? This has
What is that thingy? What do we call it? Tilde? Yeah, tilde.
no access modifier. It has a tilde right here. I can't overload it with anything. What is this thing? Well,
So we don't have any parameter for it. We cannot overload it.
this is a destructor. And it had its heyday back in 2003 when Get Rich or Die Trying was #1 on the Billboard Hot 200. The destructor is used to clean up memory resources. That's why there's no access modifier. Public or private has no meaning to the garbage collector. See, back in 2003, you might have a destructor if you were calling some kind of unmanaged system resource, like an unmanaged C++ library that ran an elevator or a piece of surveying equipment. You might use a destructor to free those resources at the end of an object's life. But shouldn't freeing an unmanaged resource be part of your class's logic?
Did you see the evolution of, that's what people thought, okay, whenever I get rid of any object, automatically that should happen. Why should I in person do it, right? Long story short, there is no room for finalizer anymore. It's something that happens behind the scene.
Collector that's going to do it whenever it decides to. Well, you wouldn't do this. That's probably why you've never even seen a destructor. In fact, in order to show you how this works, I have to use an older version of .NET. So here I'm using .NET Fiddle, which is a really useful resource.
Remember, this is the .NET online compiler, Fiddle, .NET Fiddle, and we are gonna use two others. I thought that, okay, you see one example here, and we use two other compilers in today's examples.
Something out without Spire Visual Studio. I've got .NET 4.7 selected, and I wrote a quick program. Here I have class alpha, which has a destructor. Now it's going to print out console write line class A's destructor, and I have Bravo, which inherits from alpha, and this is going to write out B's destructor. Now, Bravo is going to get created. We're going to set Bravo to null. We're going to call the garbage collector, and we're going to wait for it. And when this ends, this should fire, and this should print out, and this should print out. Let's see. Oh, down here it worked. Here's B's destructor, which this was destroyed before alpha was destroyed because it inherits from alpha. And then A was destroyed right when the program ends. So you can imagine using this here to close connections or whatever if you're dealing with unmanaged code. Let's select a more modern version of .NET and run it to see what happens. Nothing happens. So .NET Core is going to run the garbage collector whenever .NET Core wants to, which is probably going to be when you're about to run out of memory. So you can't rely on destructors or finalization anymore. Then why is the destructor interview question even being asked? Well, most companies it isn't. Do a Google search of destructor and C# interview questions. Look at the websites that come up. See how old they are? Nobody makes websites that look like this anymore. None of these websites are newer than 2010. So in an interview, if somebody asks you, what is a destructor? Say, a destructor is a method that performs cleanup when a class is destroyed.
What is destructors? Guys,
Destructor. Say, a destructor is a method that performs cleanup when a class is destroyed. Destructor. Say, a destructor is a method that performs cleanup when a class is destroyed. So take it as a red flag that maybe this company is using older technology, or maybe their developers haven't learned anything new. So keep this in mind during the process. Good luck. Next.
I very much like the way that he explained. Anyway, let's go to the things that I have provided for you. Okay, so if I show you here destructor, how about operator? I already told you if you want to use or reuse them for other purposes like complex numbers. Indexer, forget it. Event. In GUI, we are going to use events a lot. Guys, life in GUI, graphic user interface, is mostly based on the events that we define, like click, like mouse hover, like text change, lose focus, get focus, and a lot more, right? So these are the things that you want to define something happening after that. So the members, static, instance, static constructor, you remember we talked about it at the beginning of the session and we said it's going to happen just once in the lifetime of the application. So public, private, protected, maybe internal. What is internal? What is protected internal? What is private protected? Maybe private protected internal. And the answer is, I don't know. It's not in the midterm, so who cares? We are gonna have pretty soon the concept of hierarchy in classes, that we have a parent and we have child, grandchildren, and so on and so forth. And this hierarchy and kind of tree structure that we have is a sort of inheritance. And in there, it totally makes sense to have internal, protected, and so on. So we are going to just combine them all together pretty soon. You know about the static. In short, whenever we say static, it just means allocate a memory for it, right? And this time we are going to do this together. Yeah, guys, I don't want you to have any muscle memory practice now. You're going to have the code. I want you to run the code, please. Talk to your neighbors to see what you understand from the code. Okay, can I have your attention? What we do here first, we define, I don't know what is, and you're gonna see that in the test as well. I simply ask you to define something static in the class level, and I don't know, almost 80% of people put it here. Guys, a class level static, right? So we have something public static string A, and then we say, guys, what is this one? Who said Nada? Static constructor, exactly. And then guys, it says that the static constructor inside that, right? I don't very much, you know that, you know, my OCD. It should be like this, but forgive me for this time, okay? So it should be like this, then I can consider it as a code. But we have that static constructor while, what is this one, guys? Instant method, right? It's for object method. How about this one? This is a class method because of having what? Static, right? You see that here, we say static here. How about this one? What is this guy? A default constructor, right? Bravo. And what is this one? Old-fashioned guy, constructor. Sorry, destructor, destructor, right? So the thing is, the problem is I had a tough time. Let's go to before that. Here for this part, not a problem. You assign A. You assign hello world to A. This one class, but here's the first time that you create an object, right? Which constructor you're gonna trigger immediately? Two of them actually. Static one and the thingy, yes. But I went to all these steps instead of saying it like that. Now I want you to have a better version and see when and how everything happens. Now you have this code. Run that, please. And I'm going to explain everything. The skeleton is the same as what we saw. But can I have your attention, please? Everybody. Everybody, look at this one. Here I say foo, right? Jainam, I said foo.a, and what happens? Here I said before foo.a, right? And here I said after foo.a. Technically, I didn't print anything, but which one is already called? The static constructor, right? Whenever you access the class, you are gonna trigger that thingy. My bad, in the previous one, I just missed that part that we called that. So the thing is, now I just have one space here. The next part I say foo dot baz, and still it is what? It is a static method, so you don't need to create anything. So technically, you just call that method that says, hey, baz, just static method. That's it. Look at the next part. We create an object, and in that case, we call what? Instance constructor. And for this one, we say f.bar. Technically, you just call instant method. This time you create another object, but well, guys, whenever you say f equal to new, although you have the same name, but you're going to allocate memory again, right? By saying new. Technically, what are you going to call? Another instance constructor. Does that make sense? And then finally, for the baz, another static method. And here I have before finalizer and after finalizer. But do you see anything like saying in the finalizer here? You know why? Because .NET 5 and higher, they don't support that. Does that make sense? What should we do to see the impact of that? Guys, everybody, here is the compiler. You have this. And don't worry, exactly to make sure that you just need to copy and paste everything without any fear. Okay. If anybody left behind, as simple as this, I just get to this compiler. Then I copy the code that I've already shared with you. And Control A, Control V. That's it. And run the code. And then you are gonna see here it says that before finalizer, after finalizer, and then it shows the in the finalizer. Whenever you say f is equal to null means destroy the object. And in the garbage collector collection, you're gonna call garbage collector that wait for pending finalizer. And then technically that tilde thingy is going to be called. Right? Everything is fine. The last example. Guys, do you see this one? This thingy? Oh, sorry. Program is Control C. I'm going to send this one to you as well. And again, don't worry at all. Just copy and paste. everything there and see if finalizer is called. And if you run, you see that before finalizer, in the finalizer, and after finalizer. Does it make sense? And I guess the best place to okay. So by saying that, everybody practiced, right? Okay. By saying that, I want to just close a nice, neat recording. Those people who are going to watch this later, thank you for watching. And then let's just stop recording.